I have the honor to interview Jack Dorsey, my idol. This is going to be very, very exciting for me. So today our agenda is to talk about Bitcoin strategy. We've got a lot of companies that are tuned in with us, probably institutional investors, probably industry analysts, and the topic is Bitcoin for corporations. A lot of the content in the space is about either Bitcoin, the technology, or Bitcoin as the asset, or Bitcoin as an investment, or economic discussions or political discussions. And what we wanted to do today and tomorrow is just talk about how Bitcoin can enhance your corporate performance. You can grow your company, grow your revenues, grow your cash flows, build shareholder value, right? We say Bitcoin fixes everything, right? And one thing that I think Bitcoin can fix is Bitcoin can fix a company, make it better. And you're extraordinary example of success in this area. So I have an interview in 3 parts. My first part is, what does Bitcoin mean to the world? And my second part of the interview is, what does Bitcoin mean to Block? And the third part of my interview is, what does Bitcoin mean to corporations everywhere in the world? And what's the advice you might dispense to a company that's considering Bitcoin? So without further ado, why don't we start with the first question? In your opinion, what's Bitcoin mean to the world?
A lot of us probably started with Bitcoin out of curiosity, and it led us to a path where we started questioning more and more around how the world works and doesn't work, and what are some of the greatest solutions to the problems that we're all facing, that we're all seeing. Obviously, there's the currency aspect, which I'm extremely passionate about, having the internet having a native currency unto its own, that isn't dictated by decisions in Washington, D.C. that end up affecting people in the middle of Nigeria, which by its very virtue is not fair. But more than anything else for me, it was a reminder of the early internet that I grew up on. It is extremely principled. It's open source. Its workings are transparent. There's no single leader. The creator removed themselves from the equation fairly early on. The development model and the execution and operations has been consistent and unchallenged, and more than anything else, transparent. So the biggest thing that I think it means for the world is there is a way of building for the internet, building for the world, that is trusted, that is open, that is inclusive of anyone who wants to participate. We don't typically see that in the corporate world that we tend to live in and that I tend to live in. So it gave me a lot of lessons, a lot of reminders of why the internet is so important, and what we can do to ensure that people coming into intersection with this technology, that they trust it, and that if they have an idea that would make it better or make it more accessible, make it more secure, protect it even more, they can contribute. So there's so many lessons, but I think the internet having a native currency for itself opens so many doors, especially for internet companies, technology companies, but more importantly for everyday people, activists, people who have questions in the world, people who have curiosity, and more, recognizing that the current systems, whether they be the corporate financial systems or the government financial systems, just aren't working for them, and it's time to opt out of them and opt into something that is open, transparent, and for everyone.
Let's talk about Bitcoin and Block. What does Bitcoin mean to Block? Tell me about your products, the markets you serve, and the strategy that you're pursuing with regard to Bitcoin at Block.
Yeah, just a little history here to provide context for why Bitcoin has become important to us. We had the idea around end of 2008 and started in earnest building a prototype in 2009 January, which is around the same time that a lot of energy in the financial industry was happening. You had Stripe start, you had the Bitcoin white paper, and Satoshi working to the point to release the code and the Genesis block. All during that time, you had the end of this massive bank failure and just so much greed and corruption on display, which was never held accountable for, and we still live with today. So it was a very interesting time for finance or financial technology. There was just a lot of energy happening, and we happened to recognize a problem, which was, more and more of the US was moving to paying with plastic card. And this is great for individuals because it's convenient. There's a lot of negatives, obviously, with the credit card industry, but the convenience and the speed was amazing. The problem was the sellers could not accept credit cards. And when we first thought about this, we just thought, okay, we're building a credit card reader for small sellers to use. We didn't realize that was just the tip of the iceberg. The real issue was that these folks were being denied from the merchant acquirer, from the bank itself, to even accepting credit cards because outdated technologies to vet them. And so there was a flower cart underneath my apartment where we started the company, and she got denied like 3 times to accept credit cards. And that meant she had to stay with cash. And that meant every single time someone didn't have cash and tried to pay with a credit card, she lost the sale. So we realized in the first 6 months, it wasn't about accepting a credit card. It wasn't about building credit card hardware. It was about helping a seller make the sale. That was it. Participate in the economy. And that's how our company grew, is how do we build tools to enable people to simply participate in the economy? And if we can do that, then how do we help them grow and thrive in the economy as well? So we started with Square on the credit card reader. We built the point of sale because it helped them make decisions. We started lending people money so they could buy a new salon chair, so they could double their business. We created this thing that we wanted to use, Cash App, to transfer money because we had the money rails now. We did it in a very innovative way by forcing the money through a refund onto a debit card. So it was instantaneous, and anyone with a debit card could utilize it. And we actually tried to integrate Bitcoin in 2014. We enabled any buyer on our online stores for our sellers to pay with Bitcoin. We saw very, very few transactions, so it didn't really go anywhere. But we took it up again in earnest with Cash App because we found a vehicle that actually made sense. We started with a very simple model of exchange and buy and sell. We initially, when I first worked on the Hack Week project with a guy named Mike Brock, we had it so that I could store Bitcoin in my Cash App account and then pay with a cash card, and it would auto convert to the merchant into fiat. But we thought it more important to have some sort of psychological break on it. So actually selling it, indicating that I want to pay in fiat was far better than just blindly selling or blindly spending a Bitcoin at the time, especially because transaction fees were quite low.